Welcome in, everybody. It's time for the Longhorn Livestream here on a Friday afternoon. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Rod Babers and Jerry Hamilton. We're covering your Texas Longhorns, who are in the national semifinals 1 week from today, about, I guess, 1 full week and about 4 hours away from kickoff at Jerry World in Arlington. I'm Bobby Burton, Rod Babers, and Jerry Hamilton alongside. We got a lot of news and notes for you. Let's start with Steve Sarkisian at the microphone earlier today talking about the Cotton Bowl upcoming. Jerry, I'll start with you, and this is the question. Was Sark playing a little possum saying, we are really needing – we're this huge underdog? You know, was he playing possum a little bit there or what? Or just trying to stir up his troops?
He hadn't had the Kirby Smart card or the John Calipari card to play this year. They've been favored in every game. This is his chance to go in there and say, guys, everybody thinks we're going to get our butt kicked. Nobody's going to give us a chance to win. We have a chance to go shock the world. I was in this position at USC, and Texas shocked the world. Now's our chance to go do it again. He's been waiting. He hadn't had this year. He's been favored in every game, Rod.
Yeah, the underdog. I mean, even, we remember CDC's comments a couple of years ago about David and Goliath and how Texas, you never should be playing the underdog card anyway because you're Texas, right? You got to win as the big dog. But no, you're right. This is one of those times where hopefully you can motivate your guys and use that. You're going to need every little bit of motivation that you can get to get these guys ready. But I think these guys will be up to the task, but yeah, man, why not? Why waste that opportunity when you can play that card?
Rod, I got to go back to you a little bit here because we have not talked to you fully in about a day. You were on the winning drive yesterday, post game. Second thoughts about that game, and we also have the second watch coming with Rod Babers later today as well. But some of your second thoughts on the game after the post game we did the other day. Longhorns, did they meet expectations even though they only won by a touchdown in overtime, or what's the idea there?
No, I mean they didn't, right? Ultimately, Texas got exposed in a number of ways. I think a lot of the issues that we have talked about on this platform during this season, and we're crying from a yacht, as Sark says, right? Just want you to know we understand these are first world problems because we're in the Final Four. All right, so these are first world issues. We're just trying to look at what's going to keep Texas from winning it all at this point. That's what we are now. That's why people are like, hey, why are you guys being so critical? It's like no. We're just looking at the few things that could keep Texas from winning it all because we all want to have that parade. But I don't want to jinx it. But the things that we talked about, the field goal issues with Bert Auburn, right? Your third quarter woes. Don't get me started. But I've been talking about it for like a month now. The turnovers. Texas is one of the teams on the bottom 15 teams in college football when it comes to giving the football away. A lot of those things came to the forefront. And they all kind of ended up boiling over into a point of critical mass for Texas in that game. And I think that's what happens when you play better teams and then you're in playoff mode. Nobody in college football has been here before. Nobody's been here before. I mean, this is 12 teams and then getting to 4 teams. This is all new territory. So I do think for Texas, fixing one or, a couple of those things is going to be critical for them in the next stage of these playoffs. I think the third quarter to me is the most damning. Even in that game, and it continues to be the most damning. You got to figure out some way to get your team going and your offense going in the third quarters of these games. But I just think that ultimately all of the issues, as we talked about, Bobby, in the postgame, they came home to roost for Texas versus Arizona State. And there's no doubt the defense was exhausted. They had not been exposed and playing that many plays in a game all season long, and they looked like there were mental errors late. They had tackling issues late where they couldn't tackle. That is uncharacteristic of the Texas defense that we've seen. But give credit to Arizona State, the game plan. Kenny Dillingham kind of picked little parts from different game plans. I think he kind of looked at every game Texas lost and was like, all right, now what was the reason they lost this game? right? Washington, they played keep away, limited Texas possessions. That's a great way to beat Texas. We know the Joey McGuire recipe. Go for it on fourth down, roll the dice, keep the ball. That always helps you a little bit too. You got to turn Texas over, and you got to find a way to stop the wide zone. That's the Georgia recipe. Stop the wide zone, and then the Texas playbook shrinks considerably. There's significant shrinkage. I was watching Seinfeld earlier, so that's in my head. Significant shrinkage of the playbook because you didn't have the run game. And so that happened. I still, to this, I'll give Arizona State just a lot of credit. I went back and watched the film. And heard Brian talk about it. Brian say it. He's a guy that knows line play better than me. So I would listen to him. And then I went back and watched it, and I thought it was the same thing. They beat Texas to their marks in the running game. Yep. And Texas has specific landmarks and man marks that they want to hit in every run concept, wide zone, inside zone, counter, buck sweeps, pin pulls. They have specific, the running back does. Like, I'm hitting the outside hip of this tackle. I'm hitting the inside hip of the Y, whatever it is. And then the offensive linemen, they have marks that they're trying to get to when they're running these concepts. And in 3.5 weeks of prep, it looks like Arizona State figured out exactly where those marks were when they were trying to get to those concepts. So nothing really worked. They didn't have one run over 10 yards in that game. First time all season, guys. Even against Georgia, they were able to crack and pop a couple of big runs. Georgia couldn't even keep them from getting at least 1 or 2 10-plus yard runs. And Arizona State kept them from getting any explosive runs in the run game. That was critical too. And that's why your offense stalled. You started out really hot, but then the offense stalled because you had no running game at all. And then I'll just give Quinn and Sark the ultimate credit. And Golden and Helm down the stretch. Wingo's thrown in there too. Man, when these guys had to be, because they weren't good all day. Really. They were good in the first 2 plays of the game, really. And then they were good in the last, 5 or 6 plays of the game. But when they needed to be clutch, they were clutch. And that's what I'll give Quinn a lot of credit for, man. He wasn't good, but he was clutch. And that 4th and 13, it's still, that's going to go down in history. I mean, the guys, ultimately, you got to look at it. They didn't have the numbers advantage on the back end. Arizona State had the right call. Kenny Dillingham came out in the post game and actually said that he is on him. He said because he called the blitz, and his safeties and DBs are taught to, like I said, play the sticks. I said in the post game, they're playing the sticks. It's 4th and 13. Ain't nobody thinking you're gonna go for a deep post touchdown on 4th and 13. You're trying to get the first down, and they were taught to play a catch technique with what he said he called it intermediate routes. All right, you can go look at it. Boom, there you go. With the intermediate routes, and that's what the safety was doing. That's why the safety was so shallow. And I don't know if Sark knew that, knew that was going to be the case. I don't know if Quinn figured it out during the game. Somebody's got to ask, how did you dial up that play and know that safety was going to play? If that safety plays it deep, guys, it's a pick. If that safety plays it deep, it's a pick. The corner is playing outside leverage. He's got an inside help safety, and they're playing man coverage. But the 2 edge defenders, they drop out of the blitz. So they only blitz 5 and drop 6. You have you check to max protection. You got 3 guys out on routes. That's it.
And look, what Sark did.
The advantage.
What Sark did on that play is he gave Quinn 2 options. All Quinn had to do was read the safety, right?
Yep.
If the safety bites on the skinnier post, or then you got to give the second route Golden time to make his move and get open over the top of the corner. That was a good play call by Sark too. I know Dillingham is being hard on himself. I know what he's doing. His press conference is damn sad. I was like, you got this team to the playoffs, man. I know you're coaching to perfection, and that's why he's going to be a great coach. But Sark called a great play, Rod, because Quinn had to read 1 guy on that play. As long as the OL picked up on the protection, all he had to do was read the safety, right? He was going to one of the 2 spots, whichever way the safety went. He was going the other way.
Put him in conflict. It was a great play call, great execution.
Another thing that Sark said in the presser today was about the health of the team. He was asked about Isaiah Bond, and he said, we should be healthy in a week. And he left it at that. So Isaiah Bond, perhaps Cam Williams, we should be healthy in a week. We'll see if that comes to fruition, because Cam Williams, it's been going on 2.5 weeks now. If he's not able to play, then it may be something more serious. But he dressed out and was able to go, they said, in a pinch. on Wednesday. He would have been had likely Kelvin Banks or Trevor Gooseby gone out. It would have been Cam Williams likely playing, but thankfully, hopefully, we're able to see him. All right, each and every this whole week and next week as well is brought to you by our friends over at Duck Camp. Jerry, college football playoff week brought to you by Duck Camp. We were in their store just last week or 2 weeks ago before the Clemson game in downtown Austin off of Cesar Chavez. Tell folks about Duck Camp, please.
I will do that in a second, guys. I got to put the hat on. All right. Ready. Duck Camp is made for the people that live in the moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, football to watch. A&M and Oklahoma fans, come watch the Horns in the semifinals. They like doing all that stuff. So they built a company centered on it, based in Austin, and dedicated to giving people best in-class hunting and fishing apparel. There are those of you out there that look forward to the opening day of hunting season and the kickoff of the national semifinal with the fervor and excitement of a 5-year-old on Christmas morning. And Duck Camp's here to let you know that from opening day to game day, they got you covered. Unlike Arizona State on 4th and 13, at Duck Camp, they believe you can't just sit around and wait for the adventure to come to you. You have to get out there, stay out there, and make the most of every 4th and 13 and every second. Here's the great continued season, Joel. Yes, hunting and football for Texas fans. Shop hunting gear at duckcamp.com. And like I said, A&M, OU fans, you can wear this too, but you just got to wear it when you're watching Texas.
They'll be out there in the deer blind with it on, Jerry. Hey, guys, I got to say this real quick. A couple other notes we're going to go over today. Bevo has been freed. Bevo will be at the game, we believe. We'll talk about referees and what we think is going to happen with referees. They still haven't been, or at least hadn't been officially announced before we started this show. We'll talk about that. And then there's some recruiting news and rule changes we want to talk about as well. Let's start with Bevo. The big guy is going to make it to Jerry World at AT&T Stadium. You guys, I know, Rod, you're probably one that can talk about this more than anybody. Does this even matter to a Texas team, or is it strictly a fan thing? I mean, come on.
It's mostly mojo for the fans. There's no doubt about that. It didn't matter as much to us whether Bevo was there, but now I am a fan, and it matters to me. So, and I'm as a former player, and a lifetime Longhorn. So it definitely matters. You got to get the mojo. And they didn't let him in Atlanta, and he lost that game. So, hey, man, the more mojo, the better for Bevo. All right.
Hey, here's the great thing. He can't take a bigger crap on that field than the Cowboys have this year.
Yeah.
That's been a big old cow patty.
Well said.
He can just pile on what's already there. That hadn't been cleaned up.
All right, we'll get to see Bevo though. He is going to make his debut in 2025 at AT&T Stadium on January 10th. All right, Jerry, some recruiting news earlier this morning, and we talked about it on Coffee and Football. Texas expected to host Marvin Jones Jr., a defensive lineman out of Florida State. Then later today on OnTexasFootball.com, we reported that we believe that Zachariah and Zion Branch, a wide receiver and defensive back respectively out of USC, they've been in the portal for about a couple of weeks. They've already visited both Arizona State and Georgia. They've also visited Miami now. We believe they're coming to visit Texas either in the next 24 hours, 48 hours, or into early next week. Anything else going on in recruiting, or is that pretty much it? I know there's been a slight rule change you talked about. Maybe give people that info as well.
Yeah, and we'll see on Noah Thomas, see anybody else that might pop up portal-wise. Because now remember also this, the teams that just got knocked out of the playoffs, 5 days for those guys to jump in the portal off those teams as well. So we'll see if anything moves of note there. Yeah, there's actually a big rule change for this 26 class and beyond. For those that really follow the high school recruiting stuff, last year was the first year head coach and assistant coaches. You know, you could go by the school, talk to the head coach, do the old bump rule, say hi to the guy. Last year was the first time you could go have what I call it an in-home visit, but an in-school visit, where you could sit down in the coach's office or at the school anywhere, meet with the junior class. I'm talking junior class stuff here. Junior prospect and his parents a lot of times. would come up there and sit in on the meeting. So essentially it's an in-school visit. Now they've taken the next step. You'll start to see these photos popping up when these staffs are on the road. Now that the dead period's about to be over January 5th for high school kids, you can now make in-home visits with juniors, like go to their residence. So they're continuing to speed up this recruiting process piece by piece. So Steve Sarkisian, when the season's over, him and Tashard Choice can go see Javion Osborne and have an in-home visit, can go out to Atlanta and have in-home visits with guys. I actually think that's pretty big because a lot of times when you go to these school visits, if both parents work, maybe one parent can get there, the other parent can't. Now you're going to go have the dinners. You're going to go back to that, having in-home visits with juniors in January. So you have the junior day visits. Again, it's just another piece of the NCAA, and the coaches, everybody kind of working together here. They're really continuing to speed up this recruiting process. So the dead period for high school prospects ends January 5th. So expect, and I'm saying more than Texas, expect photos to start popping up of coaches making in-home visits with these kids in January. And I think that's another big piece to the recruiting puzzle. Honestly.
Yeah, it's gonna have ramifications, to your point, Gary. We just don't know what they are yet because we haven't seen. I mean, this is a new world order. Having a home visits in January of a prospect's junior year. They've moved it forward not just 6 months, but it's a full 12 months now that they've done this. All right, a couple other thoughts we want to get to is this, and while we were talking about recruiting. I want to be clear that we talk about this when Tyler Lorenz has the ship sailed on Zachariah Branch. Is it still a package deal with his brother? We can't speak to whether or not it's 100% a package deal. That's our belief as of right now. And his brother's a safety from USC, was a really good prospect prior to some injuries. Zachariah is a wide receiver that Texas is very interested in. He's a quick kind of jet guy, maybe a guy that goes in for an Isaiah Bond or a Silas Bolden type of role in the Texas offense. But Jerry, as of earlier today, he had not announced anything and was still expected at some point to show up on the Texas campus, right?
I think they may be at Miami now.
Right.
And the expectation is they will visit Texas, potentially Tennessee. We'll see if that, look, these guys can shut it down at any time. But I do know Arizona State and Georgia both believe they're still in it. Nobody believes they've been eliminated yet, from what I was told earlier today. So they're either at Miami, expected to be at Miami right now, and then Texas is likely visit destination as long as Texas wants to keep pushing the envelope here. And then Tennessee's also a possibility. And it remains, nothing is, look, things could always change. I haven't heard anything to push me away from there. It could probably, there's a high probability they end up at the same school. And the key there is from an NIL perspective, does every team Zachariah Branch is going to go start wherever he goes. Does every team from an NIL perspective value Zion the same way? I think that could be a deciding factor here at the end of the day, but we'll see.
All right, Chris Weatherford here. Rod, this one's for you, buddy. I've been watching hours of pundits and podcasts in the sports world today. That's what we do over the holidays, by the way. We're trying to get this week behind us, and then we'll start fresh next week with the full year. But Horns have no chance is the narrative out there. I love being overlooked finally. Legitimate fire in the locker room, I assume. What is the mentality change there if you're the underdog, Rod? Because y'all weren't the underdog much at Texas. You were a couple of times, but not often. What mentality changes?
You won't be the underdog very often. I think it'll help Texas. I think it's something Texas can use, but that dissipates pretty quickly. Let's be honest. That underdog stuff that dissipates pretty quickly once you start, popping pads. Ask Arizona State, right? All that stuff kind of goes away once you're popping pads. For them, I think it actually went into like the first few plays of the first quarter. Then things settled down, and then we were just playing football in between the chalk. All that stuff kind of goes away. So I do think for your initial hype for the game, it can help you in terms of preparation, your motivation for preparation. You may decide, I'm staying up nights, man. I'm staying up a little later watching film. Like I'm dedicating myself a little more. You should already have that, but guys may be a little bit more motivated in terms of their preparation. But I think 5-8 minutes into the game, that's all done. It's football at that point.
The focus, the laser focus on the task at hand can be greater when you think more is going to be called on.
Yes.
For.
Oh, you're being disrespected.
Once the butterflies are gone in the game, or as Rod likes to call them, the bubble guts. Once those are gone, it's all about ball from there on. Yeah. But I do think it helped. To your point, Rod, I think it really does help preparation. Let's go to the next question. We're going to take y'all's questions and comments for the rest of the hour here. We've got a couple more sponsors we need to talk about. But first, I want to get to this question from, not this one. Where it is. This game reminds me of Texas versus USC matchup. Nobody gave Texas a chance. I don't know if it's quite that big a deal because
there's a month build up.
There's only 10 days to build up for this, 8 days really to build up for this game compared to a whole month and the better part of a year, really that built up that Texas versus USC narrative. All right, Rod, and I want to include this for all of us from Rod W. or RW.
This is good.
Do you think having former Texas players on the ASU defense helped them in a sense of knowing what was coming and be able to beat Texas to their spots in the run game? Prince Dorva made some really impactful plays in that game, no doubt about it. Zach Swanson saw some action.
It's interesting.
Now, Xavier Alford, the thing about that is he never played.
Right.
He never played football. Yeah. But Swanson and
that's the one. Swanson's the one. But he's the one that practiced against that offensive line in that run scheme. That's
a great point.
I'll just throw it out there.
That's a really good point.
All
you need to know what the aiming points are.
Yeah.
And what they're trying to get to, and then line it up obviously with your film study and with your own analytics. That's a great point. I mean, it's a really, because like I said, nobody has stonewalled the Texas running game like this. Now, Georgia kept in a 1 yard per carry, but at least you popped a couple. You didn't pop one run for 10 yards or more in this game. Your longest run was 7 yards. That is, I got to go back and see if that's ever happened to Sark in a game.
Or Texas. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like, how does that happen? He won the game, so I guess, but I'm with you, Bobby. I'm not even willing to do the research. I want to put CJ down the rabbit hole, but think about that. What's the last time it happened to Texas or Sark? It's crazy.
It's hard not to fall into an 8 yard run in a game.
Not even a quarterback scramble.
Right.
No, you're right. Because Quinn has been scrambling actually for a couple of. Quinn actually did pop like a 5 and 6 yard scrambles in that game too. So he was among your best running plays and running players was Quinn. That's never good for Texas.
Yeah, I want to also add this. 3 of their better players on the day I thought were former Longhorns. We mentioned Xavier Alford. We mentioned Prince Dorva. Don't forget about Troy O'Meary.
He showed up.
Yeah, he showed up, had a couple of really competitive catches, I think is the best way to put it.
Contested catches.
Yep, contested catches. So they played and acquitted themselves very well. They should be proud of what they did.
And that's a good thing. To just, we're not previewing Ohio State just yet, but obviously that will start in the next 24 hours for us. That's a big thing with Texas because of their DBs, because they don't have a lot of busted coverages. And because they do play sticky coverage, because Texas DBs are best pass defense in the country, contested catches are a big thing. Like you do have to make a few of those throughout the game because you ain't gonna be just open against Texas. And Arizona State made a couple of those. Even the Scatterbo one, he initiates contact. He was like, I need to get some contact because I don't want to just try to catch it clean. He's like, I need to contact this guy. That's how he was a great football player. He contacts Taft on purpose to disrupt Taft and then put himself in position to make the catch. I think that's going to be key in Ohio State game too. And they got the kind of receivers that can do it. Not a lot of receivers can make contested catches against Texas. Those guys can't. Clemson has some guys that can make contested catches against Texas.
Ohio State is the Clemson receiver core with more man size and breakaway speed.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Got a couple other questions coming here that I want to get to, if you don't mind, guys. Jackie McCardle asked this question, and it was also asked of Steve Sarkisian in the press conference today. Do you think the success Quinn had at the end of the Peach Bowl will make him more confident against Ohio State? I'll say this. How can it not? Seriously. Okay? Until the first play of the game.
Well, I was going to say.
Yeah, I mean, as soon he throws a pick on the first play, that confidence is shot.
Yeah, or the first three dropbacks, he has pressure in his face every time.
Yeah. I mean, it's football has a weird way of doing that and humbling you. So you can be confident all you want. Start running for your life. You're running for your life, But I do think, like that, Jackie, I think it will mean that they make practice a little crisper, a little bit more pep in their step. And I would also say this, and Rod, I want to get your take on it because we talked about it on Coffee and Football this morning. Don't you think they need to ask more of Quinn in this game coming up than they have been? I mean, they've asked him a lot this year just to be a game manager because the defense has been so good. Mm-hmm. Is Quinn can Texas win this game against Ohio State if Quinn is just a game manager, or do they need a little something more?
We talked about this, Jerry, in the in-game live watch. We were talking about it, I believe, and yeah, at one point he's got to make NFL throws.
Yes,
and Ohio State. The deeper you get into this tournament, more and more you're like, he's got to make. And he did, by the way, late in that game versus Arizona State. There were some NFL throws that he made, 4th and 13. I think being the most obvious one, but he made some NFL throws late that game, and I think that's what you want to see. He's going to put the cape on, which he did with 5 minutes left in regulation and double overtime versus Arizona State. Now you're going to need it probably for more stretches in that game versus Ohio State, but he's going to make those throws where NFL scouts go, that guy going to play on Sundays. That's an NFL caliber throw. And I saw a few of those versus Arizona State, not enough. And I think you want to have Ohio State's going to make you do it. I don't know, like 8 to 9 times throughout the game in critical moments. 3rd down, red zone, when it matters most. And if he can do it, they can win. Remember Michigan, that was the case too. Had to do it on the run, on the move, under pressure. Remember he had a higher Pro Football Focus rating under pressure than he did in a clean pocket. That was putting the cape on. They couldn't stop him. In the red zone, he was awesome. He was awesome on the run. He was awesome with a clean pocket. That is the Quinn you're going to need. That Quinn that we saw in the last 5 minutes of regulation overtime. That Quinn, if you get that Quinn for like 2.5 to 3/4 of the game instead of the first 2 plays and in the last 5 minutes of regulation overtime, yeah, you got a chance to beat Ohio State, no doubt, in my opinion.
Bobby, what you said, Texas needs to attack the middle of the field. I agree. I think Ohio State will do the same thing that Arizona State did. They're going to say, even in a 3 high, they're going to say, those throws outside the numbers, behind the corners, go make them.
Michael Simpson's talking about that right now, and I want to bring this up. Why is Sark abandoned the middle of the field passing game in the intermediate? Quinn killed it working the middle of the field from the end of the 4th through the overtime. The offense hasn't clicked like that in weeks, and I agree. And I think when you're up 17-3, you don't make throws over the middle of the field because that's the most likely place for it to get picked.
Yeah.
Or tipped or batted and something freaky happens.
It's true.
That is something about Sark's offense. When he goes outside the numbers quite a bit. And when you're up 17-3, you try to do that because it's just less likely to get picked. I don't know that he can not do that though against Ohio State. I don't think he's going to have that choice. I really, really don't, guys, because it's so hard. All right, Rod, do me a favor, please, and tell folks about our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery, man.
Oh, yes, it is my pleasure to talk about Flat Creek, actually. I have Flat Creek in the house right now. I got some of that Super Texan, which is their fantastic, most popular award-winning wine, but they have a lot of great wines, folks. And the most awarded wine in Texas right now is actually the vineyard closest to Austin. It's really close. As a matter of fact, it's just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for the wine I just mentioned, their Super Texan. It's great. It's available at your local specs. They also have it it at your local Central Market here in Austin. I saw a display there. So the good word is getting out about Flat Creek Estate Winery. And of course, Flat Creek not only produces fantastic wines, but they also have a gorgeous venue for barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. Perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. Go check it out for yourself at flatcreekestate.com. That's flatcreekestate.com. Thank you very much for sponsoring our Friday live stream.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Thank y'all so much. And we really appreciate the guys at Flat Creek. This was a good question because it is uncharted territory. That's a good word for it, MJF. We're in uncharted territory after 16 weeks of games. Mental and physical toll. Lots of film for opponents to decipher.
Yeah.
We talked about this. This is an NFL schedule now.
Yep.
I mean, 16 games. That's 4 more than teams that didn't make a bowl are going to play. By the way, that's a third of the season.
Mm-hmm. I love the point about the film study there. Like, that's a lot of sample size out there for you. And you've exhausted a lot of your plays because you're playing bigger games, more big games as you championship games. And then now deeper into the playoffs. Didn't have that before. So the playbooks, I got to tell you, they're, a lot of them are spent already. How many of them can break tendency right now? You got to come up with some stuff in this 8-day span. It's going to be really interesting. And we saw the physical toll it took on Texas. I mean, being out there for 90-something plays against Arizona State, we had never seen the Texas defense that exhausted. We never seen them miss that many tackles, have that many mental errors, breakdowns in technique. Fatigue makes cowards of us all. Since I'm criticizing, we brought up and Matthew brought up, I had a game in 2002 against Texas Tech, not me personally, but my defense. And, that was air raid in its infancy. Hell, man, they had a ton of plays. I think I played 87 plays, I believe it was in that game. They lit us up for 300-some yards in that game. Wes Welker went off for 100+. It might have been Kingsbury's best game, but we lost so many guys because we played so many plays. We lost Nathan Basher. We lost Derek Johnson. We lost Kalen Thornton went down. Marcus Tubbs went down. A lot of our best players went down, but that's what happens when a team can get you to the 80+ play mark and stuff like that. You get exhausted and guys, start dropping.
Hey, Rod, on second watch, did Sark bring anything out in the passing game you hadn't seen this year late in that game and into overtime?
Actually, he went back to a lot of things that were trusted concepts. Okay. He went back to things that were bread and butter things. We all watch a lot of Texas football. Remember the tight end leak? And we've seen that tight end leak in big games. We've seen it in game against Alabama. All right.
Nothing in terms of route combinations, though. You didn't see.
I don't think so. I would say the 4th and 13, you don't see that often, that nod route.
Yeah.
You don't see the nod route often. It's in his playbook, but you don't see it often. They don't run it a lot and throw that route a lot. So I'll give that is something that I didn't expect them to go to it when it was money time. That I did not expect.
He had to bring one out.
He brought it out, and
he had to bring one. He was forced to bring one out. For the next
play call. Yeah, perfect play call.
Would have loved to seen that in the 4th quarter instead of double overtime. By the way, just for my own blood pressure's sake. This one from Sean McCummer. Do we see more Kobe Black for his size at DB against Jeremiah Smith here? Obviously, I just don't think you go to your number 4 corner right now. The one they brought in and played some is Gavin Holmes, actually, when Manny Muhammad went out. It's Black is not just he's not the number 3 corner, he's number 4 now. So I don't see that, Sean. Understand what you're talking about there, because guys, Rod, you've seen Jeremiah Smith. Jerry, you've seen Jeremiah Smith. Jerry compared him to maybe Julio Jones.
First round guy. Round.
Not just first round. He's top 5.
But still.
We talked about this, Rod. Like, there are first round picks on Texas. Kelvin Banks is that elite guy. We think that Cam Williams.
They tried Xavier Worthy last year. That's a first round receiver.
But how many top 5 picks are going to be on the field on next Friday? Maybe Banks,
2,
right? 2, and maybe Jeremiah Smith.
Yep.
That's it. Now, that's pretty salty, but something to consider for everybody.
The good news is Texas doesn't play a lot of man, so they won't necessarily be some guy that's just on an island with Jeremiah Smith. That's the good news. Bad news is they play more zone, and zone you can find ways to engineer matchup advantages and move him around. So they just need to have a plan for him, period. Because if I am Ohio State, I'm trying to get him matched up on Gilbo, get him matched up on Malik Muhammad. Why the hell would you want him? You can get him matched up on Jadae Barron, but why would you work harder, not smarter? They're going to go with those other two guys. Have a plan ready. And I'll tell Jadae, Jay, when you matched up on them, honestly, I might let you do your thing. We may decide, hey, if you can handle it, you can handle it. Those other guys, I would have a plan. I wouldn't just leave them on an island. That's probably not the best course of action.
I want to say something crazy about Jeremiah Smith. And when Bobby and I were talking about this, I mentioned that Bobby, when he was coming out of high school, I was at the Under Armour camp in Miami, but when he was a junior, I believe that was sophomore going into junior year, or junior going into the senior. I can't remember. I got to look back. He couldn't catch a ball that day. Now, it was a South Florida. Remember me, Bobby, telling you about this? We were talking about him. I said, I don't know what kind of hands he had, because the one time I saw him in person, it was a South Florida windy day, breezy day, probably 12, 15, right? You weren't on the ocean. You're about 5 miles away. But he dropped 3 or 4 balls just in the camp, in the Under Armour camp, from a D1 quarterback. Wow. In the one-on-ones. I was like, this is where that's where sometimes it can be deceiving. Because if college coaches would have watched that, some guys would have walked away from there saying, Coach, we're not sure if this guy has good hands. He just, whether it's concentration, he didn't care because it was an Under Armour camp. I walked away from there saying, does this guy have great hands? Because I just saw him drop 4 bread basketballs that were not like tough catches and pads here.
Haynes says he doesn't drop them down. He was dropping some early in the season.
Yeah.
So he actually had quite a few drops early in the season. This is a good question. Jackie McCardle also asking it. Will Sark grab a kicker in the portal? Jeff Banks said no a week ago at a press conference or not necessarily a week ago. I guess it was Monday now at a press conference at the Peach Bowl, okay, where the assistant coaches got to speak to the media or were asked to speak to the media. He said Bert Auburn's planning on coming back, and so we don't think we need anyone in the portal. I don't know if he still feels the same way 5 days later. I think that's a fair assessment, is it not, Jerry and Rod? I mean, can you go into next year without another kicker now? I don't know that you can.
It'd be irresponsible to do it. You should have a backup plan, insurance plan now. Unfortunately for Bert, not saying he's not going to win it out, but you should have an insurance plan now.
The only thing that changes your mind if he goes out and rips 4-4 the next couple of games.
Is that really going to happen? Because last time we saw him, he doinked a 38-yarder.
I know.
All right. Art Gilbert here. Is there a limit, Jerry, to the number of in-home visits that the head coach can take to each player's home? Do you know that for sure?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because I'm 99.9% sure it's one for the head coach.
Okay. Aaron Hahn here. With the lack of defensive tackles in the portal, does the staff have something planned? Does Burke go to play defensive tackle next year? It's not going to be Ethan Burke. He doesn't have the frame to ever play defensive tackle unless it's a NASCAR package type thing where it's 3rd and 15 or whatnot. But y'all don't think, I mean, here's what we know about defensive tackle recruiting. There are some guys that Texas is interested in. They are still waiting for bowl games to be played. They're waiting for names to go in the portal, etc. Do they have a plan? Yes, they have a plan. Are we going to reveal what that plan is? We don't know all of it personally. We know some of it, but until it starts playing out, we're going to let it play out. Is that a fair way to put it, Jerry?
Yeah, because I don't think all the people are in the portal that they believe will be going into the portal at some point. And that could be after the spring too.
Yep. This one from H-Dub. Can you discuss the convo Sark had with Bert before the second miss? Was that something where usual process isn't working, so coach is trying to infuse confidence in a struggling kicker? Nick Saban famously said, I never went out and talked to the kickers. And my thought process is, yeah, but did you have a kicker miss a one field goal just a minute and a half before?
No, he would have cut him.
Yeah, he would have cut him with a minute and a half left to go in the game. He would have cut Bert Auburn. But seriously, I think he was just trying to mix it up.
Yeah.
And do something different because Burt was clearly in his head. He's got the yips right now, or at least he had him on Wednesday.
It's what's funny is there's a lot of times you'd like to have been the fly on the wall. That's one I would have loved to hear what Sark was telling him. I had nothing to do with football other than we have confidence in you. I know you're going to make this kick. I have your back. Ball. He had to have said something else funny. I would have loved to heard what he said to Burt.
Yeah, it was just all encouraging. I guarantee you. There was a video that's leaked recently of the Vikings coach O'Connell talking to Sam Darnold like in the headset and just telling him like it was before like a crucial play, like, "Hey man, I love you. I just want you to know I love you, man. I think you're doing a great job. You're killing it out there." Like it was it's just all optimism and encouragement. I'm sure that's just whatever his version of that was. Like, "Hey man, you're awesome. You're great. No matter what happens, I got your back. You're good. You're good here." Like trying to relax him a little bit. I'm sure.
What did you condition your hair with today, son? What conditioner did you use today?
Whatever it was. Yeah. People want to shave his head now. Now Longhorn fans want him to shave his hair. Those beautiful locks. That's how desperate they are to get the mojo right.
Oh boy. This one from D1 Daryl. I tweeted in March that Jeremiah Smith would be the best NFL receiver prospect since Calvin Johnson.
Damn.
Was I far off? We'll see.
We'll see.
That's
Megatron?
rarefied air.
Megatron. I don't know if he's Megatron, but I'm not saying he's not elite, but Megatron. They haven't said how dominant Megatron was. Do y'all remember? And there was at one point defense decided they was literally going to put 2 DBs out on him when he was like in the red zone. Because he was such a basically a guaranteed catch in the red zone on a fade route. Like it was just they turned a 50-50 ball into an 80-20 ball. They would put 2 DBs on him out there sometimes. Like basically put one over the top of him and like one play bump and run because he was that dominant. I don't know. I don't know if he's that. I don't know if he's that just yet.
I would say this too. I mean, we'll see, but and I'm not saying he won't be. One thing about Jeremiah, he's pretty dang close to being a finished product physically, not as a wideout. What I would say is what'll be interesting is this is a marathon for these guys, not a sprint. What's Ryan Williams going to look like at 21? He's just turned 18, right?
He's a baby.
He was supposed to be a senior in high school.
Edgar Padilla, kudos to Sark for teaching the team how to win again. For years, games like the Peach Bowl were a certain loss, and thanks to OTF for being the go-to Horns outlet. Your passion and knowledge is great. Appreciate that, Edgar, and appreciate the super chat. All you folks. Edgar's right on. For years, these were games Texas lost. We saw it. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many one-score losses did Tom Herman have in a year? 6? Is that right? I mean, Texas has learned how to win under Steve Sarkisian. They didn't start out knowing how to win. They went 5-7. Okay. But they've been competitive and they've learned how to win. And they brought in better players. That clearly helps with winning, by the way. But good stuff there. I agree with you. I think they've learned how to win. Rod and Jerry, this is a comment I agree. I don't know about the they win part, but Quinn and this is from Major Alexander, Quinn needs to own the 10 to 15-yard completions to move the ball down the field. It doesn't need to be these big 1st and 10, let's go for 35 over the top. It needs to be 1st and 10, let's get the ball, let's get the chains moving against Ohio State. Do you think that Sark will change his approach since he's the underdog in this game maybe a little? Or what do you think, Rod?
It all depends on Quinn, but I'm with you. I think it's a great point by the super chat there because I think that 3 high, just the nature of it limits the explosive plays for you, right? In terms of what Major's talking about, and Quinn's not naturally great at the deep ball accuracy as we talked about, even though 4th and 13 is 4th and 13. And then to Jerry's point, what Jerry's talked about most times with Georgia was that they had the linebacker athleticism to smother and suffocate the screen game and your quick passing game, right? You don't get the same yak advantage you have with other teams, with teams like Georgia and Ohio State, because they're gonna be able to They can chase it down, take angles to the football, and they got great athletes there. So your intermediate game, like that's where the sweet spot is, right behind those really linebackers who can suffocate that short, quick game, and in front of those safeties. Now, their safeties are a different breed of safety. That's the thing about the intermediate passing game against Ohio State. Their safeties, you want to make some contested catches because they're going to be on you quick. You ain't going to be just running wide open through their secondary 10 to 15 yards. It's going to be a quick window if Quinn can hit it. This is about being anticipatory.
Throwing open. You got to throw open in this game.
He ain't going to be open. You're going to throw him open. All right. Yeah. And that's reading the coverage, reading the DBs. So that's why it's going to be a challenge, Major. But I agree with you, Major. I think you're right. I think they got to own that area.
Bevold, BVAOLD, BVA old. Make sure you send a question in. We'll definitely get it to you. Thank you for the super chat. Jerry, this is a question for you and me. Charlie 990 wants to know if OTF is returning to the Jerry World Walmart parking lot. Thanks for all you do. It all depends how cold it is my answer to that.
They can't be as cold as that day, Bobby. I'm going with 3 layers of clothing and an ascot.
We will do it though. We'll do it. We had a good time out there.
Bobby, the lows are in the 20s all week, and then 33 low Friday, 34 Saturday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The highest high is 45. So it's going to be 30s wind chill.
That tailgate that we have going on Friday. One of the things that we asked was, do you have space heaters? And they said, "Oh yeah, we've got space heaters." So there'll be all the food you can eat, as well as all the drink you want. Sponsored by our friends over at Flight by Yingling as well. It will definitely be cold.
It's a great time for a hot chocolate company to become a sponsor of On Texas Football. Send your emails to Bobby Burton.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Here we go. H-Dub. Is the lack of a run game more on the OL play or the RB position itself? ASU was undersized up front, but seemed like they used their athleticism to get past our guys and fit into tight spaces. Look, we've seen the running back position work with this team this year. I think the offensive line and the scheme got beat on Wednesday. So we could talk about whether they hit a landmark. Arizona State was going towards a landmark. The reality of it is their defensive line, whether it was because of preparation or quickness or a combination of both, beat the Texas run game scheme. It was not on the running backs, in my opinion. Now, one thing I could say, Texas did with their current running back group doesn't have a counter. To the guys going up the middle. Like they don't have, Jaden Blue is not a between the tackles runner. He's just not. Trey Weiser, that's not, he can do it, but that's not his strength. They don't have, if you take away outside zone for Texas, what kind of run game do they ever really have?
I can add something to that real quick. Yeah. I spoke with somebody earlier today, and this person I spoke with, they didn't think Texas would run it inside.
Yeah,
in that game. And so you almost just have to mix it up enough and take a 1 or 2 yard gain, because the team you just played, they didn't think you'd run it.
Yep.
And no, he's right about that. It's when you see the big humans, the assumption is, oh, Texas is going to run power and run downhill on you and just, and pretty much dominate their opponent. Strangely enough, that's not what their big humans do. Their big humans are great at zone blocking concepts. So I agree with Jerry. That's why there'll be some 4th and 1s or 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, and we'll see Sark decide, I'm gonna go with a wide receiver ending around instead of just running it downhill. And you go, damn, they did it in this game, right?
Or a pseudo fullback trap.
Yeah,
tailback.
There you go. Because I think Sark knows what you're talking about as well, that's not their strength, and I'm not going to ask them to do something that they're not good at. But one point, they got to get good at that. Maybe I'm not saying this year. You don't just get good at it in 8 days, whatever they have. But that's the next evolution in roster development, I think, too, with them. They got to be able to have that effective counter to run downhill when they need to, and they couldn't do it. Couldn't do it.
All right, we got another question here. This one from Katie35. If the elite Texas D we've seen all year shows up, what's the least amount of points you think we surrender to them, and how much offensive points do we need for a W?
This is a tough question because you can't watch the Oregon game and come to a conclusion because Oregon that couldn't stop anybody that was in the playoffs. But I do think Ohio State's pretty hot right now. I think it's going to be, and I think that's why you're seeing the over-under pretty big number. I mean, what do you have to score? What is Texas going to have to score? 30?
I think
31?
the person that scores 30, you're going to have to score 30 to win.
Yeah.
And you may have to score 40. That's a personal opinion.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how well your defense is playing. I just think they have they got touchdowns.
Maybe I'm wrong. They got touchdown makers. I mean, they got four. They can put four guys out there on the field. Smith, I'm not saying at the same time, Smith, Ibeka, Henderson, or Judkins that can score on a football field.
Yeah.
They're going to score points. It's almost like the reverse of Rod, what we've been talking about. The reality is Texas hadn't faced NFL quarterbacks this season on this schedule. They faced the last 2 weeks. They did face future pros. Those guys are worth 7 to 10 points, maybe 7 to 14. Ohio State's they got touchdown scores. They're gonna put points on the board.
They did against Michigan. Why didn't they against Michigan?
Michigan manned them up with a light box.
No, that's what that is. Texas is, to me, that's the game in the game plan you watch. All right, that's literally the game on my. And you're right, Michigan, they can play man, and Michigan's gonna light you up. They're coming after you. And I said it earlier. You got to come after Will Howard. You can't allow Will Howard. You need to turn him into the erratic Will spill the pill Howard that we've seen in the Big 12. He's been much more consistent versus Ohio State, but that's because of the scheme. I think the talent around him. They got to turn him into the Will Howard that they know, the one that's never beaten Texas. That Will Howard. And the Michigan game is the only game where he's looked like that. Like Will spill the pill Howard. It's really the Michigan game.
I expect Ohio State to move him in the pocket a lot. Move the pocket in this game a lot. Whether that's play action, whether that's off of play action. I don't think they're going to make him a standing target for Colin Simmons in Texas in this game because he's not the athlete. He's functional, but he's not Will Levitt back there. He's not Sam Levitt back there.
No, he's not twitchy like that.
No.
Yeah.
Few people are.
No, exactly.
I mean, he was twitchier than Cade Klubnik.
He looked like a basketball player on a football field out there with a running around.
Looked really, really good. I'm not saying he's a better quarterback than Klubnik because I don't necessarily believe that. I think Klubnik threw a better ball, but better athlete. Yeah, I could actually believe that, and I didn't necessarily think that going into that game, but I came out of it thinking that he was. All right, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, and that is South Point Dodge. Texas football fans, score an easy extra point when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has more than 600 vehicles in stock, and their award-winning sales staff doesn't do games or gimmicks. They just get straight to the point by getting you the very best deal possible. So score big today at South Point Dodge. Come see them off of I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge is Austin's automotive everything. If you're looking to sell your car, get South Point's best offer over the phone or online. That's South Point Dodge. Talk to Walker Stark and the guys there at South Point Dodge, and they'll get you settled up. Again, southpointdodge.com. All right, then going back to the chat line here, we've got another one coming in. This one from Bradford, and I want to ask you this one, Rod. I remember you talking about the 3 high safety look that teams like to deploy against Texas, and how the 6-0 line package, where they would bring in a Malik Ogbo or Andre Karich in years past, would make a safety announce their intentions or display their intentions. What other things can we do to get that result? I would also like to see split back sets, which you call the pony package, the 2 running back sets, Rod.
No, that's and Bradford, thank you for the super chat, and thanks for listening. I appreciate that. No, it is that essentially the most unique threat that the 3-high presents is the disguise. All right. It's just unique disguise. It's a relatively new defense. It hadn't even been around for a decade yet. And so there's just not a lot of built-in kind of built-in beaters, what they call that. Like there are beaters for every coverage out there, and beaters for 2 high safeties and beaters for a single high safety. But when the 3-high look, it's just relatively new. Now, they still get to the same coverages out of 3 high safety. They'll still get to cover 2, still get to cover 3, inverted Tampa 2, still get to cover 1. It just looks different pre-snap. And this is not something that most quarterbacks who are been developed in this day and age have come up seeing in 7-on-7 in high school football. They just don't see it. You see single high. They're probably seeing it now because it's now so popular. But you're in this range, right, where these quarterbacks, it's relatively new for them. And I just think that's why it has a significant advantage. Now, what you want to do is you want to force. I compare it to anybody that's seen the movie Predator. You see the movie Predator, all right? What is the key to Arnold Schwarzenegger beating the predator, the alien, right? He's gotta force it to abandon its camouflage and disguise. I can't beat it if I can't see it. I can't kill it if I can't see it. And that essentially is what the 3-high is. It's the predator. But once you force it to reveal itself and to abandon its disguise, then it's just a cover 2, or it's just cover 4, it's just cover 3. It's just how it gets there is so freaky looking and so exotic. Quarterbacks forces the process more.
To your point, Rod, Sark has to attack that defense differently than he ideally wants to attack a defense with all his motion pre-snap, because you're not really going to get guys to declare as much in a 3-high.
Yes, yeah. Actually, the pre-snap motion rates actually kind of drop against some of the teams that use a lot of 3-high. That's their identity. Yeah. Because it's all about your initial formation, and I think it's all about presenting power personnel packages and pivoting to play action pass principles. Because when I present power, 6-0 line package. When I present power, 2-back sets, I force them to have to get to their run fits, because they know if I'm not close to my run fit, they got to run it downhill on me, because they have the numbers advantage in the run game with those types of power personnel packages. So I think you get extreme with your personnel groupings and formations. 11 personnel is not extreme. 11 is balanced, pretty much. You try to balance things out with 11. And 12 is more power, but you're still kind of balanced. I love empty versus 3-high. I love 6-0 line versus 3-high. I love pony packs for 3-high, because it forces the 3-high, their personnel, to abandon disguise and either get to their run fits, or it's empty. You can't disguise anything got empty. You just got to get to your alignment and assignment right away. And those are concepts I'd use versus the 3-high throwing out there. But he hadn't seen 6-0 line all year. We haven't seen it. So
a big part of this game too for Sark is going to be, do his tackles win on their islands against Sawyer and JT Tuamalu? If they don't win, then he has to, maybe it's a Juan Davis has to chip game more so. Mm-hmm. Right, Rod? I mean, how those tackles hold up, because Ohio State has 47 sacks, most left in the college football playoff. And I think Sawyer and JT both have about 8, 9 themselves. Y'all can check the stats on that in the chat. But if Texas can win on the islands against those guys, it frees up Sark.
Totally agree. Yeah. And if you can run the ball versus the 3-high well, then all is right in the world. Yeah. Right? If you can just run the ball versus 3-high, then it's all good. You don't even have to worry about that, because they will abandon disguise to try to get to the run fits, because they're being just, eaten alive in the run game. That's the question. I don't know if Texas can just run the ball versus Ohio State, period. And they're 3-high. I don't know if they can do that. And Jim knows you.
They feel
really well. And Jim knows your offense. It ain't new to him.
Hey, one of the things we didn't hit on Coffee and Football, Bobby had a great text this morning. It kind of triggered our thoughts. Johnny Nansen, defensively, Rod, was on Chip Kelly's staff at UCLA. They went up against him as the DC at Arizona.
That's good.
DK went up against Chip Kelly years ago, but recently Nansen was on the staff as a D-line coach, and then was the DC at Arizona. So there's a little interesting game within the game there. Chip Kelly and Nansen are thinking about each other and what each other knows, and what does Nansen think I'm going to do here? Nansen, what is Chip Kelly going to do here, Bobby?
Yeah, PK went up against
I like it.
PK went up against Chip Kelly while Chip Kelly was at Oregon and PK was at Boise.
I like that.
Too.
Good.
Look, catch the wave. You guys see the clip. I just want to go away from team and stuff for a second and mention this. You guys see the clip of the UT player praying with Scatabo post game. The player in question was Nick Sanders, a walk-on from the baseball team, actually backup running back for the Longhorns. And yes, I did see it. And I would say this: I mean, whether you're religious or not, I thought it was a great display of sportsmanship because it looked like it was honest and felt honest the way he did it. It wasn't pronounced or anything like that. It felt very real and good for Nick Sanders and Cam Scott.
Before this,
Justin Yarbrough, where do we outmatch Ohio State? Rod, do we limit their offense? Does the pass game scare you more than the run game? Where do we let's start. That's a two-part question, really. Start with where do we outmatch Ohio State? Does Texas outmatch Ohio State anywhere? Good question. Ohio State may have the best personnel left in the playoffs.
Yeah, I was going to say their roster is just as good, if not better, than Texas's. Maybe your secondary is better just because of the players, but I don't know.
Not by much.
Draft wise, I don't know. I'm talking about just in playing.
Caleb Downs will be a top 5 pick too, by the way.
I know. Ohio State's pass defense is just as good as Texas's. Like it is. Like they're both basically elite pass defenses. You're talking about both pass defenses being top 5 pass defenses in college football. That's what you're talking about. So I don't know where they have the advantage. That's a great question.
Quarterback.
Yeah.
Depends on the day for both of them.
Yeah.
That's why I said if you're talking about just an NFL prospect, yes, it's Quinn. You're talking about the way they're playing right now. That's what I'm saying. Like if you want to talk about just the way they're playing it as a college player, I don't know if you can just say that's Quinn.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can just say that's Quinn. You talk about prospect NFL, yeah, of course. And so I don't know which way you're talking about, but that's a great point. I don't know where. That's why this is the most compelling matchup for Texas in maybe in a couple of years, actually. Honestly.
All right, got more for you. What about the limit the offense, or do you attempt to limit their run game or their pass game?
What are you trying to take away?
Yes.
I would try to take away more of the passing game. I try to because I think you can. I think body wise, I like your guys up front versus the run. I think you can hold up versus the run. Texas has been pretty good versus the run. They've melted down versus Arizona State because they were on the field way too much. Nobody plans on that. Man, those receivers can beat you so quickly. Explosive plays over the top, man. They put you out of the game fast. You get down 14, 17 some points to these guys who gave up 2 big ones. If you're going to beat me by marching down the field with your running backs getting 6-7 yards a pop, I'll take that, and then we'll rally in the red zone. But if I just give up deep ones over the top because guys get beat, explosive plays, that may be all she wrote too early. I'm taking away them weapons on the outside. I can't let you have that. You got to beat me marching down the field.
Fair. All right. Juan Garza here. Sark needs to use the same motivation he did in 2022 against Alabama, even though they lost used that same style of motivation, or in 2023. I will say this. Sark mentioned it today as well. He wants to turn AT&T Stadium burnt orange on Friday. Mm-hmm. He's really asking Texas fans to come out and give them a home field advantage in Dallas. It should be naturally because it's in Dallas.
Yeah.
But I think Sark's asking for a little bit more than normal from Texas fan base. He's asking for the old Mac Brown, come early, be loud, stay late, wear burnt orange.
I think he'll get it.
He's going to get it.
He's going to get it.
Hey, by the way, we were talking about Scatabo. Anybody see the picture of him and Arch Manning? I'm interested to see how tall Scatabo is at the NFL Combine or wherever his pro. He looked 5'7" and 3/8 to me.
Oh, did he?
He may be Darren Sproles.
I mean, I thought Arch Manning was going to hand them Halloween candy. That's how much bigger.
I have not. I will say this. When's the last time, other than Darren Sproles, you've seen a running back get that low and still make yards?
Yeah, stay on their feet.
The other one that used to do that is Rock Cartwright. Y'all remember him?
That's actually a pretty interesting
I
comparison.
got one that played against us, Quentin Griffin.
Yeah.
From Oklahoma, dude. He was like 5'6", maybe. Like I towered above that dude. I'm 5'8", 5'9". And I like looked over, like I would literally look over Quentin Griffin. That dude was so small, but he was center of gravity was amazing. You could never get him on the ground because he was already there.
You guys are listening to the Longhorn live stream on Friday afternoon, brought to you this week and all week by our friends over at Duck Camp. They are sponsoring college football playoff week this week and next week. We appreciate them very, very much. If you're looking for hunting or fishing gear, make sure you check them out. Duckcamp.com. They've been tested from the backcountry of Alaska to the Dove Fields of Texas. Give them a shout and look them up. Duckcamp.com. Great hats, great apparel. Everything you want for hunting and fishing gear. Guys, next one from Major Alexander. They just hung their linebackers and strong safeties in the C and D gaps. Talking about Arizona State. Y'all agree with that? I mean, were they I thought their safeties were running downhill a little early, too. Not just playing in the A.
That's why I thought they were taking shots deep in the first half.
Yes.
Corners had no help.
They stacked the box. They played single high safeties and stacked the box on standard downs, early downs. So I mean, they won the numbers advantage in the running game just straight up. They took their chances on the outside, which if you're looking at the first two plays, you'd have thought, oh, Texas about to eat them alive, and that wasn't the case.
Never went back to that slant until the fourth quarter. That they threw to
Golden.
Skinny post, to Matthew Golden, RPO.
Yeah, RPO. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, never went back to it until the fourth quarter, right? To Ryan Wingo.
That was out of empty formation actually.
Was it? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Should have went to empty more.
Yeah. Jeff Carey, if we don't dramatically improve our third quarter play, we have little chance to win. What can we do? Man, if Jeff, I love you, man. If we had the answer, we would somebody would get it to Sark. But Jerry wants to give him joy mode.
Joy mode in the third? I love it.
Take it all.
What do we do? I mean, what? Seriously, some people are saying, "No, put Arch in for a series in the third quarter. Can't hurt." In all seriousness, I don't know what you can do. I mean, it is what it is at this point. Now you just got to you win the next two games. Who cares what you do? You try to fix it in the offseason. You got to get through the next two games. And here's the other thing that's even worse news for everybody. Ohio State has only given up one third quarter touchdown this year.
Of course.
Perfect matchup. Then.
And it was against Oregon this past week.
Yeah.
Of course.
Because when they kind of called the dogs off a little bit. By the way, we talk about Texas has to cover Ohio State. Ohio State has to cover Matt Golden, just on the flip side. Somebody's got to corner him up.
Very true. And Gunnar Helm.
There's an Ohio State fan in the chat. Tell your friends to come in. We're all talking football and love all, talking it with everybody. If we talked about it, the corners are where you have to attack at Ohio State, but how effectively can you attack them when they're in the 3 high is the question. But that's who you have to attack in that defense.
This one, Wilson Johnson, thank you for the super chat. I don't have a question attached. Let me know if you have one. Alessandro Franco, if you could put one player from last year's team on this year's team, who would you pick? Man, Xavier Worthy for me. Or Andre Sweat. Which way would you go? Byron Murphy?
Damn.
Healthy Jonathan Brooks.
I was going to say Jay Brooks, so that's a good one.
Ooh, that is a good one because that changes your run attack, right?
Healthy Jay Brooks is probably a good
on this team.
Yeah, that's what they need. That's what they need, right? Because, I mean, the D tackles hadn't been that bad. You just got exposed a little bit with that last week, but that's because you're on the field too long.
I was going to say you got exposed because it was 97 plays or whatever it was.
Exactly, right?
Think about being able to rotate Brooks and Trey Wisner in your run game.
Yeah.
You could run inside zone, then you could have your outside and your wide. I think you'd have more. Well, Cedric Baxter, obviously, if he was healthy this year, but That's what we talked about before the season. That's what Texas lost. They lost their inside zone.
Yep. He's gone. Gone, baby, gone.
Yep. And still in the national semifinals. That's a hell of a coaching job.
Yep.
Yep.
It is. And Bond hadn't been healthy since week 6. And Rod, we talked about this morning. I want your thoughts on this. The loss, and I say loss because Isaiah Bond now isn't the same player he was pre-injury.
No.
But because he was the best perimeter guy at the receiver position, and then he could take the top off, I really think that limits Sark in his scheme. And that doesn't mean Ryan Wingo's not going to be a first-round pick one day and isn't a tremendous player, but we're talking about your best guy in the screen game, the guy you were targeting in your wide receiver screen game on the perimeter, and then your guy that you used to scare defensive coordinators and safeties.
And your best reverse guy.
And your best reverse guy.
First ending around guy. Remember, he was the best ending around.
He's been a big loss.
Yeah, he was an extension of the run game, Jared, to your point. Ending arounds and basically the screen game. And how many did he pop when you just threw it to him behind the line of scrimmage? And he pop it for 40, 50 yards. So, no, I'm with you. I mean, Sark misses that guy because Sark wants to instill fear in the defense with that guy. Xavier Worthy was him, and before that, and then now Bond's that guy.
Will Butler may have the right answer.
Bert Auburn from last year. Well done, Will.
We need Bert's alter ego to return.
But I want to say this in defense of Bert Auburn. Nobody that had a bye won.
That's true.
What does that mean? Why is that in defense of Bert Auburn?
The SEC championship game, they may have been out.
Oh, so Texas was good to lose Georgia. Yeah, but it wasn't okay to give me a pair of heart attacks on Wednesday. That was not nice, Bert. I'll just tell you right now. Also, Rapid Calm says, ever seen a true freshman built as crazy as Jeremiah Smith? I don't know.
It's a great question.
I'm interested to see him and Ryan Wingo side by side. We see that this weekend or next weekend. Excuse me. Wilson Johnson. He had a super chat earlier that we didn't get to. Do you guys think Quinn being tampered with is distracting him from the task at hand? It's really bugging what has happened. He's not being tampered with, guys. It goes. There's DJ. Stop the noise. And people like Bruce Feldman are saying, "Oh, I think he's going to transfer." Okay, he's not transferring. He's going pro. Got news for you. He's especially going pro after he just made the play he did.
Yeah.
4th and 13.
He's got pros talking right now.
That's exactly right. He got him into the right play, saw it, and delivered. That's a pro play.
It was a pro
telling you. So Wilson, that you're listening, and I'm a talking head myself. So, but you're not listening to the people that are closer to it. And I am listening to the people in that camp that are closer to it. Now, am I going to say ever that it's 100% he's never going to do anything? Of course not, because I'm not there. But I would say 99.9%, if you want to give a fair number based on my communication and what's been consistent from the very outset.
Can I answer that? I'll go 100% Arch Manning's not transferring, so people can stop that too.
Yes.
Oh.
All right. Major Alexander, Lane Kiffin was right. What was he right
Diego
about?
Pavia shot? Is it something? What about right?
Oh, Diego Pavia today. He was talking about he's going to request a waiver for Jackson Dart. Like, let's just have everybody be 40 years old, play college football.
Yeah, but Sark didn't Sark take a shot at that too, right? So
very
Sark have texted about it. I bet they're boys.
Can I add to that conversation? I'm glad that happened because that's going to push to where this absolutely needs to be. When you come out of high school, you have 5 years of eligibilities. No more red shirts. You have 5 years. Done. If you have 3 years of bad injuries, it sucks. I'm sorry. It's part of life. 5 years, done. So the guys can play all 5 years, move on with it. People say, what about my Mormon mission?
Yeah, exactly. What about that mission, man?
BYU.
Hey, I'm about milk it as much as you can. Get it, Diego, get it.
Rod's a player. Rod's a player.
So what, hey, Rod, Bobby, they'll make it 5 years from when you enroll at a school, right? That's what it's going to be.
No, this is.
Let me ask you this, okay? So Dylan Gabriel,
Yep.
highly effective college quarterback, may never play NFL football. Doesn't have the arm for it.
Small,
smallish, not just small, but kind of frail looking.
Yep.
Okay. What if he could just have unlimited? He would just stay a college quarterback and make $1 million a year for the next 10 years.
No doubt.
You know what?
Right?
And good for you, Dylan. Good for you. Get it. I got no problem with it. This is for the decades where players, college football players, or college athletes were exploited for decades. Now let these guys get their money. I'm not getting it. It's okay. Y'all get it. It's fine. Go get that money. Go get it.
Here's what I would say to that. Okay, I'm fine with players making them. I do want to keep college football about college though.
Yeah.
What's he going to be doing in those 10 years? He's
He's
going to be
masters.
Anthropology. How many different masters can you get in 10 years? I mean, that's my point. What do you have like?
I hate higher education. Why do you have against higher education, guys? Come on now. This guy's getting degrees.
He becomes the real life Wooderson.
The system has been broken forever. Now the system is broken in favor of the players, guys. It was broken years in favor of the universities and the establishment. Now it's broken in favor of the players, and everybody's losing their ish. It's okay. It's always going to be broken. It ain't never going to be right. I'm fine with y'all making the money now. I know y'all don't like it. It's all good. We can agree, disagree on that.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with them making money. I'm talking about you want to have like that takes for me. That's one of the things that's different about college football than pro football is there is a time horizon. You don't have a quarterback that's with you for 15 years. Tony Romo becomes the Dallas Cowboys, right, for 10 years.
Yep.
Or Pat Mahomes is going to be with the Kansas City Chiefs for 15. One of the great things about college football is you see groups of players come and go over a 3 or 4 year period. I want to keep that as part of college football. I think that's what's different, Rod.
It sucks for the high school kids coming out. I will say that.
Yeah, it does.
It's less spots for them. So I agree. That actually does break my heart a little bit. That less high school kids get that opportunity.
Yeah, especially if a guy's playing 6 or 7 years.
Exactly.
Cam Rising is still eligible, by the way.
I know that's crazy. It is wild though. It's wild.
Yeah. All right. I tell you what, that's going to do it for this episode of Longhorn Livestream. Oh, where is Trey Owens transferring to? Thanks for the levity there.
I mean, let's be honest. He's not going to stay around. I said when I first saw the young man, I said he ain't going to be here to exhaust his eligibility because he's too good. But he'll be here to learn and help you stabilize the position and learn the craft from one of the best, which is Sark. And that's what a lot of quarterbacks going to come to Texas to do, guys.
Well, you know what he is next year? He's designated survivor. Like if there's an injury, he's the guy.
Yeah.
He'll get sworn in if Arch goes down.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I will add this for him, for Trey Owens. There's something about him that's a little extra. Just telling you what he did in the spring game. Just I don't know. I don't know if it's very Mac Jones-ish as a comparison. Probably not that good an athlete. Maybe a better arm though. But he stood in against some heavy rush and delivered as well or better than anybody else in that game, by the way. All right, that's going to do it for this Longhorn live stream. Again, college football playoff week brought to you by our friends at Duck Camp. Also, thank you to Flat Creek Estate Winery. They're great. We love them. Super Texan. Give it a try. You got to do that at your local specs. Also, thank you to South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com. For Rod Babers and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Bobby Burton. Thank you all so much for joining us. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more on Texas football. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.